This is my discussion slash review for 911 Lone Star Season 4, Episode 14, titled Tongues Out. And I gotta say, you guys were right. Let's talk about it.
Live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings, I'm a big fight.
I find myself saying this every week. Even though I'm behind, I find myself saying this every week. 911 Lone Star hits different, man. And this episode was fantastic. Now, 911 Lone Star always came in a little bit different from 911. 911 was a little bit more serious, and then it started adding, the comedy aspect to it. 911 Lone Star kind of came in with the comedy parts, and then they added the more dramatic episodes part to it. Now, what I love about Lone Star is that even though we got the comedy, we get the serious aspect in there, but it still holds roots when it comes to the comedic parts. But no different from this episode. This episode picks up right after last week's episode in continuation with Owen talking to Gabriel about Kendra being the possible murder of her husband. And right off rip, I gotta admit, you guys was 100% correct, man. Kendra didn't do it. So big ups to that, and Kendra's going to be around a little bit more, hopefully. And Owen has a pretty wonderful love interest continuing on the show, hopefully. Now, we see that Owen is talking to Gabriel, and they kind of just explain everything a little bit in more detail. And Owen is feeling a little perturbed, so to speak, because of Kendra possibly being the murderer. And let's be 100%, him probably thinking that, I just can't find the right woman. But he's been avoiding Kendra a little bit because he's been talking to Gabriel, but Kendra is waiting for him at the firehouse. They ended up having a heart-to-heart, and he tells Kendra not everything, but the gist of everything, what him and Gabriel was talking about and about her being the suspect, because she pretty much knew, let's be 100%, because Owen also found out that her first husband died as well, so Owen's kind of thinking she might be a Black Widow. But after careful consideration and then talking to Kendra, he kind of realizes that he really does love her, so they kind of open everything and continue with their, I don't want to say relationship, because at this moment that's not the focus, but Owen decides to help her prove her innocence, and he brings in Paul. Segue to this whole little segment that Paul has going on about his pudding cup that somebody stole. That whole part was fantastic and funny, man. And then Carlos comes in, I took the pudding cup, I was hungry and I enjoyed it. But we see that Paul is the one that Owen was mentioning, that someone that sees things and someone that could actually help Kendra get through this whole debacle. Now, Paul goes and they verify the ice chamber and the footage and everything, and they're trying to find out what actually happened to Brett. So we continue on with this episode, and we see, to be fair, this entire episode kind of revolved around that whole situation, and I'm glad because we found everything this episode and we wrapped up everything this episode. But we see that them finding all these clues, even with the footage and checking out the ice chamber, they really didn't have much to go on. But they did find out that the dog is somehow sick. Now, with the dog being sick, they decided to take it to the vet, and they find out that it had like slow acting poison in it as well. But with the dog being sick, they take it to the vet, and they find out that the dog has slow acting poison as well. So they get the poison, they find out, then they go back, and I can't believe the story and the turn that it took with this episode, man. 100%, I did not see this coming. Normally, I see things coming, and I can kind of guess certain things a long way off, but I did not see this coming at all, man. So Paul spots things, and he was just, something's not adding up. He sees that the dog is walking slow, Brett's walking a little bit slow, and we come to find out that Brett is a horticulturist, and he has his exotic plants and all this other stuff in his little shed. Now, we find out that he somehow had some plant-based carbon for the plant, some liquid, some solution or whatever. It was organic and all a whole bunch of stuff for the plants, but it ended up getting on his skin, and his skin absorbed it, and that was a slow-acting poison. He wasn't officially poisoned. Brett done it to his freaking self. And then he got in the ice chamber and freaking froze to death. He killed his freaking self. But that's not even a twist. He killed himself while trying to kill Kendra. Now, Paul was debating like the whole entire time, and they even brought Gabriel in on it, and Gabriel was upset at Owen because he's out here spilling beans. But they find out that Brett poisoned himself, and then that was pretty much case closed after Gabriel had the lab check everything out and the medical examiner check out Brett's body and everything. They find out that he poisoned himself, and they thought that was the end of it. But Paul still couldn't figure out why wasn't everything clicking. Now, to be fair, with me myself, I didn't quite understand the whole gist of him rotating the tires. They're rich, like not like rich. They like rich. So why is he rotating tires himself? So anyway, he's rotating Kendra's tires so he can cut her freaking brake line to kill her because she fell in love with Owen while she was still married to him. Now, he was cool with the open marriage thing. Now, to be fair, that aspect, that kind of happens a lot. Open marriage is like, oh, well, I'm cool with an open marriage. But then the wives tend to find somebody that she like a little bit more than her husband. So let's not do open marriages. I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. But if not, long story short, sometimes it tend to backfire and then your wife finds somebody's new. But what I love is Paul figured it all out. He cut Kendra's brakes and he poisoned the freaking gin that he got her for her birthday. Like, that was a twist I did not see coming. But Paul figured it out, man, and Owen is trying to revive Kendra. He's poisoned. Kendra's poisoned. Owen doesn't get the whole thing at all. He's all conflicted. Run it back for me again. Let me just try to get a general understanding. It was good, man, and we see that him and Gabriel were butting heads, but at the end, Gabriel had to apologize and really congratulate Owen because he saved Kendra at the same time. So big ups on Gabriel and Owen because we know that they're going to be familiar. So big ups for them on that to kind of reconcile the differences and to kind of come back together because I really like Owen and Gabriel like being in-laws and them being at evens with each other, not odds. You know what I'm saying? Now, the rest of this episode was still actually really good in my opinion. It's the whole Tommy and the pastor debacle. Now, one thing people fail to realize is pastors are people too. I'm gonna be 100%. Like, dude, I go to church and I love going to church. And people tend to forget that pastors are people. And I'll say this and I'll say it and I'll mean it. Church gossip is the worst kind of gossip there is. Street gossip and regular old women or women talking in the street kind of gossip don't got nothing on church gossip, man. Church gossip, it's like elevated 10 times 10, man. Like, it is on a whole nother level. But I will say this. I like the fact that Tommy stood up to those old women that was gossiping about her and she still went after the pastor because my thing is, sure, he had a horrible experience with the church people and the elder board and stuff like that, but this man deserves to have a happy life. His wife freaking cheated on him with the music pastor. So if he wants to have a relationship with somebody in the church, he's still a person. Now, they ain't got to be out there doing all this business and, at strip clubs and stuff, nothing like that. But if he wants to have a relationship with someone in the congregation, that is totally fine. That man is a man and he's human, okay? So don't be coming at the pastor with all that foolery. And then Tommy came in there. First of all, she interrupted the whole service walking down, strutting down the thing. But it was good for her, man. It was good for Tommy, and she stood up to these old women that was bashing her and kind of just gave them a what for, if you will, and admitted that, I'm not going to be selfish about my relationship, but if we want to pursue one, we can pursue one and we want to. We're both consenting adults. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if he's a pastor. He's still a person. And his daughter likes her. He likes her. So it doesn't matter what the congregation thinks. You know what I'm saying? They ain't doing nothing wrong by dating each other, pursuing each other. But, that's a whole nother story. But it was good, though. It was very, very good. And I like that part. Now, normally when it comes to shows and stuff like that, I'm a little iffy about people playing pastors, portraying anything like that. But I feel like they've done a very good job about it. And like I said, pastors are people, too. Overall, I love this episode. And 911 Lone Star hits different. This is your buddy Incredible. Don't forget to smash the like button so you can't smash any more. Comment down below and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them and subscribe. Peace out.